Hey, welcome everybody. It's time to begin Bollox Talks and Tangents. We got a great show. I got Lenny in here. I got Blake making faces at me. I got a whiskey that I just love. It's a bourbon from the St. Augustine Distillery, one of our great sponsors. Lenny, how you doing, man?
I'm groovy, man. I am all good.
We are both in studio. We got Blake in studio. We got the whole gang here.
The team is back together. No
Cheers.
offense, Amanda. You were fabulous.
Oh, Amanda crushed it last week with the movies.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, but we kind of, I wanted to get something she loved, and I knew she loved movies, and she absolutely crushed it. I didn't do my homework yet.
Nor I kept doing it, and Julie won't watch it with me, so I got to do it on my own.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you the truth. I can't remember which one I was supposed to watch.
It could have been
because I had one from Amanda and one from you, and me and Amanda decided we were going to watch the one
Palmetto.
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson.
Okay, Woody Harrelson, Palmetto.
Yeah. But speaking about crushing though, congratulations, Lenny, on ASL winning again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. By the way, listen to your wife more, would you?
Absolutely. Trust me. I go home with her. I hear it.
Lenny, actually, I go over to Lenny's table. Right. And Lenny was making fun of his wife's answer that they turned in. And his wife's answer was right, and Lenny was wrong. And it was a music question, which, Lenny, you're usually pretty solid on.
I'm not as good as a lot of people on music. It's not my... But that one I was...
More people wrote down the answer. You wrote down?
I know. I was in good, bad company.
Yeah. And it was One Bad Apple by the Osmonds, and you wrote down...
Jackson 5. Along with many of the other people there. All I have to say is that, Gypsy was lovely last night. It was nice. It's going to take a little while to get used to the separate. Oh, yeah. God, I don't know what day of the week it is.
Yeah.
It's not Friday?
No, it's Thursday.
It's Thursday. I got to get me a watch or a calendar.
The time changes messed everyone up, Lenny.
Yeah.
That's it.
He missed a day.
I know.
He missed a day. But it was
good hooch.
It was good hooch. But it was good in there, right?
It's fine. It's just it's nice to see your friends that you made friends with over the years of playing trivia. So the larger room, but this worked out. You just wander around to see where everybody is.
Yeah, I had to walk. Yeah. I had to do the over and river and through the woods and make sure I checked on Picasso and Peaky Islanders.
Right.
Back there.
There's needy teams.
They were in the kitty room,
right?
And your markers just fell.
That's all right. I'm done writing.
Okay, thank goodness. They were in the kitty room, but it all worked out. They could actually hear better than a lot of people in the front room.
Good. Yeah, we were fine where we were. The menu is more expanded than the Beacon, so that worked out.
And I can tell you right now, I'm nervous for both of those teams because they said they miss seeing my face.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, I have the face for radio.
Exactly. Well, that's very true. And yet here we are on camera.
Yeah, we're right here.
All right.
We got a great show. We only got an hour to get in, and this is our veterans special.
Thank you for your service.
I told Lenny we're doing history of the armed forces and the different branches of the military. And when I started to do that, I was like, we're going to come up with the exact same information. And I shifted on you without telling you.
That's all right. You want to know how many service people are stationed, how many Army people are stationed in California?
I bet you know.
157,000 of them.
Wow.
That's right.
157 in California, California.
Just California.
All right.
A mere 482,000 nationwide or in service. Seems low, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like it'd be more.
Seems low. Well, when you do everything cumulatively, we got a lot. Not Chinese a lot, but we got a lot.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be more than that.
I would have thought.
I would have thunked it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and I shifted to generals and actual veterans. Like we were doing a veteran special, but I went directly to the generals because I found a ranking of the generals, and I have the top 10. I went to the top 11 generals.
Okay.
And we're going to talk a little bit about those, and I would like to have your ranking because I have a different ranking than the one I read.
Well, there's one intriguing one in there that, the man was by far one of the most talented generals, but how he makes that list, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's there's I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, but he was asked to be in charge of the other side.
He said no. He actually went to one of these military academies, by the way.
Yeah, he had the second highest score of all time at that military academy.
Yep.
All right, but we got to first talk about our amazing sponsors.
Right.
And we're going to start off with St. Augustine Distillery and Citygate Spirits. Appreciate you guys. And a special congratulations to Phil. He's on the state visit Florida.
Is the Visit Florida board, so basically the tourism board
for the state. So it's a state ranked board. Phil, appreciate what you do and what you do for tourism in St. Johns County and St. Augustine. Yeah. All right, next on our list. I ate there this week. I had the French dip panini at Meehan's. And they have
back on the menu, baby.
They have it back on the menu. And what do they have? They have the
the au jus de dip?
No, the au jus de dip is amazing, but Judd had it. They put it back on the menu. The stout.
Was it a pot pie or a?
Yeah, it was like a stout. It wasn't a pot pie, but
it's a shepherd's pie.
It was like that, but it was like served not in a container, but it was a stout something. Oh, but it was
it in a bread bowl?
Oh, it was. I'm gonna have to look at it again.
Okay.
I'll text you and you can remind me next week. But it was
right on the table.
It was great. They just have amazing food there. They have 3 bars in one. They just always get it right. Mm-hmm. I haven't had a bad meal there.
Never.
I've never had a bad meal there, and they just it comes out hot and it's always good. So and the drinks are phenomenal. So
everything there is. I mean, it got to the point where we would go there so regularly that we would sit down, and if it was Caleb or Kaiser or Raleigh, they'd say, "Okay, Caesar salad, drunken clams, mac and cheese," and all we go is bring it.
Yep. I saw Tom there. I hadn't seen Tom in a while.
Really?
Yeah, Tom was there. So
that's lovely.
I got to see Tom. And,
that's nice.
Told him thank you for helping us out and being a partner with us.
I like him.
All right, Roosevelt Room. If you haven't had breakfast there, if you haven't had lunch there, you need to do yourself a favor and go there. Blake, you need to get your butt down there and have if you go down to just have the candy bacon. All right. So next week, we're gonna pick a day and we're gonna go down there at the Roosevelt Room. And we're gonna have a meal. Just
not on Wednesday. I rearranged my schedule to have lunch with you, gentlemen.
Yeah. And then you were late.
Well, I wasn't planning on having lunch with you today. Today got me. You should pardon the expression, all bollocksed up.
That was yesterday.
No, today did.
No,
not tomorrow.
Wednesday.
Not today.
Wednesday was yesterday.
So no, I understand that.
Okay.
But next Wednesday we're having dinner.
New York guy anywhere.
I don't know what day of the week it is.
New York never sleeps, man.
New York never sleeps.
I like this man. I like this man again.
All right,
that's why I keep him on the payroll.
But Roosevelt Room, they have amazing food. It's a great venue to have a small wedding. Not that small. It holds up to 75 people. Mm-hmm. You can have your Christmas party. It's Christmas season. It's fundraiser season. If you're wanting to get into politics, it's a great place to do a fundraiser for politicians.
Sure. My wife would divorce me.
Yeah. Don't you do it. Don't you go back.
That. Right.
Don't you go back. All right. The next one on our list is also on sponsor row, and that's St. Augustine Pirate Museum. Just doing an absolutely amazing job. I saw these guys. They had a fundraiser last week for the homeless, and they worked with the sheriff department, and it was a fun concert that they had at the Colonial Oak that was sponsored by St. Augustine Pirate Museum. And that's what I love about our sponsors. They're so involved in the community in everything that's about St. Johns County and St. Augustine, and really appreciate it. All right, these are my guys. 2022 taxes are done. Yes, it is now November. And I have finished my 2022 taxes, and I'm so proud. And the only reason they're done is because Abare, Kresge and Associates, they got all of them done. I did a couple businesses early, and it just takes me a while to get there.
Extensions are over.
I'm probably the worst client to have. And these guys make me feel like I'm the most important client they have. I'm by far not their most important client, but I really appreciate
You may be
how
their
they
most
make me-
challenging.
I definitely like I walk in and people like peek around the corner like ooh. Ooh. Troy's here. All right. But they take care of me with professionalism and just are absolutely amazing. Another group, hopefully they're professional because it's me, and that's Coquina Coast Realty. If you have any real estate needs whatsoever, commercial, residential, whatever you're looking for, Coquina Coast Realty, give us a call at 904-669-7901. And I said us, but that's me. So I messed up my pronoun.
Hey, but might have some involvement soon, maybe.
Well, yeah, you I think I paid for all your materials, haven't I already?
And it didn't work.
Yeah.
Get that man a real estate license.
Yeah,
Ah.
I've talked to him about it. So
All right.
'cause it makes things a lot easier on us. So, and you have the last one,
We are.
but definitely not least.
No, but where did you have lunch yesterday?
I'm telling you right now, I usually switch up, but the rolly is so good. It's a pastrami with peppers in it, and just oh my gosh, what's the young lady's name?
Julia.
Julia crushed
Jules.
it at Kaiser's.
She's fabulous.
Like, what did you have at Kaiser's yesterday?
So I had the White Street.
The White Street.
And I'm encouraging you to get it pressed next time.
That was my bad.
Toast that. Well, that's it. You know, live and learn. Toast that sucker up. But I will tell you, if you need a charcuterie board, Julia makes some of the most beautiful charcuterie boards in the city.
Wow.
They're fabulous. We did one back for a Christmas party for a restaurant, and she was able to spell out the entire name of the restaurant in cheese and fruit and vegetables. It was beautiful. The whole thing was beautiful. Palm trees, Genoa salami roses. The woman's very talented.
Excellent. So,
But if you're looking for a small Christmas party, not quite Roosevelt Room size, because that can go up to 75, but if you're looking for something intimate, you got a small business, you might want to think about Kaiser's for a Christmas party. Beer and wine, and they will tailor the food to you.
it's so good. I'm telling you right now, there's not a better deli lunch in town than Kaiser's.
Yeah, it's
So-
delicious. It's delicious.
And he's an okay dude.
He ain't bad.
He's
He ain't bad.
he's a keeper.
Yep.
He's a keeper.
Yep.
Not gonna lie. All right, we got word origins. We got so much stuff to look forward to. And
Did I mention there's 157,000 members of the U.S. Army in California?
I don't.
Wrong time for that. We gotta do war origins first. Then
Yeah,
we
I
can
know.
get into the
Yeah.
military.
I did research, baby. I gotta get some bang for my buck.
So 25% of our military
Army,
armies in California.
yeah.
Don't get it.
No, nor
I don't even know what to defend there.
And,
So-
and most, and you got Camp Pendleton. I can't ever think of major Army bases there. Pendleton is a Marine base.
I don't get it. All right, word origins.
Go ahead,
All right, so you want me to go first?
if you'd like. Otherwise, I can.
All right, I want to hear yours first, and I'll feed
All
off
right.
of yours.
Okay. Well, I won't say that I do, but some people, and I'm sure that you don't. Blake may have a lot of them. We don't know about Blake.
Huh?
He's young. He hasn't gotten that far. But people have skeletons in their closet.
Skeletons in their closet.
Skeleton in their closet.
I don't have mine dance in the street because I've been doing this show so long.
Right.
And I've been in the public eye so much. I don't have a whole lot of secrets that people don't know about already. So that's why I'm not electable.
I can appreciate that, and I am electable, was elected twice, maybe not down here, but I still went by the concept that my autobiography, the title of my autobiography, is My Life is an Open Book. Ask me a question, I'll answer it. You may not get the answer you want, but it'll be an honest answer. And I, have embarrassed myself frequently, so why stop now?
No, I've seen you embarrass yourself.
I do.
Last night in front of your wife.
Exactly. But skeletons in the closet. And, and by the way, and thank you, darling, because Julie put this one up for me.
Okay.
She's more, she loves these word origins. She's constantly handing me notes with things for that.
That's a beautiful thing.
And she certainly is a beautiful woman. Skeleton in the closets, it's a hidden source of scandal or shame, that something you don't want somebody to know about. So you've got something in your deep, dark past that you don't want to come out is a skeleton that you have hidden in your closet. But the real etymology of that came from 1832 in England, when their medical schools were evolving and they wanted to do anatomy work. and the Crown and the British Constabulary was not big on using corpses, so you had to go grave robbing to get your corpse. And at the time, if a cop or an inspector came in, you hid the skeleton in the freaking closet. So literally, there was a skeleton in the closet. Literally, another one of that was sort of a variation on the theme was Edgar Allan Poe, who, by the way, went to West Point because I'm going to get my research in, damn it, one way or the other.
Yeah, he got kicked out for walking naked through the
absolutely the quad. Yeah, absolutely. 1845, he wrote a story called The Black Cat, where apparently, and sorry again, darling, he offed his wife. Not my intention.
In the story.
Exactly. And, he was so braggadocious that he's, banging on the wall going, I don't know where she is. I don't know what could have happened. He's banging on the wall. And, a little later, the wall came crumbling down, and that's where his wife was. Sort of a variation of the Kresge di Amontillado. He kept that theme going. So.
Yeah. So, Edgar Allan Poe, we could do an entire show about him.
I think we might have to. I got an Edgar Allan Poe story, which I'll save for that show.
Yeah.
We can that was a little spooky.
Entire show about that one. All right. He's the only writer that has a football team named after him.
It's true.
So
it's true.
All right.
And they're doing well.
I'm gonna. Yeah, they are doing well. They're doing better than the Steelers.
Excuse me?
Oh, now you decide to pay attention? Now you decide to pay attention? He was nodding off in there. I saw him nodding off.
Well, that got him waking back. That got his neck snapping back.
All right, but
what do you got?
I got one for the sports teams.
Okay.
The Yankees. All right. It has nothing to do with Chris Farley and Black Sheep in that one.
Okay.
What's your favorite team? The Yankees? But what it is it was the conflict in New York between the Dutch, New York City, which was founded by the Dutch.
Yeah.
And
New Amsterdam.
And the English. And the English started calling the Dutch Yankees. Okay? And the reason they started calling the Dutch the Yankees, do you know the story?
No,
Okay.
I'm intrigued.
Okay, so Constantine or Keys was pretty much the most popular men's name, and
Okay.
Jan,
Right.
which later became Jan, was the most popular women's name. So they combined them. The English combined them, and that's how the Yankees came to be the name from the English to the Dutch. And that's how the New York Yankees are now the Yankees. It was almost a slur from the English to the Dutch. All right. You know the song Yankee Doodle Dandy?
I do. That's where I was going to ask. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you know stick a feather in his hat and call it
macaroni. Yeah.
You know what macaroni is?
Not in this context. All I know is a derogatory song.
It was a derogatory song from England
Right.
to the
colonists.
The colonists, all right? And
Power to those colonies, baby.
when the Revolutionary War was going on, the colonists didn't realize, or the Continental Army didn't realize it was an insult. They actually started singing it. All right? Stick a feather in his hat and call it macaroni. Macaroni was a gay bar in London.
Really?
Stick a feather. So they were calling the colonists prissy.
Hang on.
And
so there were gay bars in London in the 1770s.
yes.
That does not surprise me, mind
Yeah.
you, but,
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's not like homosexual just came around. It's been around.
No. Well, wake up and smell the coffee, America, would you please?
Yeah,
Because, get your skeletons out of the closet.
we're not new here. It's, but that's
Yeah, but it's all Greek to me.
But macaroni, yeah, that could be next week. But that's the stick a feather in her hat and call it macaroni.
Okay.
The English thought they were insulting it, and then the Continental Army had no idea about the bar in London.
I wouldn't
So
think
they
it.
didn't realize they were being insulted that way.
That's great.
So they said, "Screw it, we're okay with it."
That's great.
Yankee Doodle Dandy, and that's where it comes from.
I will say that I appreciate my New York Knicks, who are actually playing good basketball right now, which they usually do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Back from the Dutch.
Yes.
But they start every season playing good basketball, and they just
it's only
don't.
2 weeks
They
in.
don't close. Oh no, they're not closers. Maybe this year, we'll see.
Yeah. How are the Magic doing, Blake?
We're doing all right. 500.
Yeah, 3-3, 4-4.
Hey, if Patrick Ewing made that finger roll we would have won the championship.
Yeah.
And and I think I've told you the story about going down to Penn Station. There was a Dwayne Reed on the right-hand side, and there was a big full wall of windows, and they had pictures in there, and one of them was poor Willis Reed laying on the floor in Madison Square Garden.
Hobbling out. He only scored 4 points in that game.
And every time I walked past that, it was, get up, Willis. Get up, Willis. What a great team that was. Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
See, at that time, I was a Celtics fan.
Yeah, well.
I was a Celtics fan up until the time Florida got the Magic. And then I became a Magic fan. Okay. So, and I had to suffer through for a little bit, and then we got Shaq, and then we were good, and then we were bad. Then we were good, and now we're bad, and now we're okay.
Yeah.
So, but Willis Reed. So, but I was a Kevin McHale. I was a Havlicek guy at that time.
Did Shaq play for the Magic or the Heat?
Shaq played for both.
Yeah, he did.
But he started with the Magic.
Yeah, I don't remember him as the Magic. I remember
he was drafted by the Magic. Yeah, he went to the finals, lost 4 straight to Akeem Olajuwon and the Rockets when Michael Jordan was trying to play that baseball, and he was terrible.
Yes, he was.
But he went to the finals, and the Magic got swept, even though the Magic were a much better team than they played in the finals. Right, yeah. Nick Anderson missed 4 free throws in game 1 to lose game 1. All he had to do was hit 1.
Yeah.
And they win the game.
All right. I gotta ask you.
You gotta talk into the microphone, buddy.
All right, but so now I know you mentioned this a lot, but what do you think is worse? The four missed free throws or that one pass interference? Which one hurts you the most?
Pass interference hurts me way worse. The pass interference against Ohio State and University of Miami hurts me way worse than that. Because we still would have had to win 3 more games.
Right.
The game was over when the pass interference happened in that game against Ohio State. All right, what's your next word origin?
My next word origin is superstar.
Superstar.
Yeah.
Superstar.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And believe it or not, I called this out of a Jeopardy category of idioms.
Okay.
And superstar was there. And it's very interesting because I had to really dig to find what Jeopardy had was the answer. Where did superstar come from? And it was in the late 1800s. Somebody coined that phrase in response to an overly bright celestial body.
Okay.
And that's not one of the strangely weakest parts of this concept. But it morphed into what we know as a superstar.
Yeah, see, I thought it would have come out of the movies, obviously.
No, before that, there was a woman named Gertrude Hoffman who was perceived to be the world's greatest showwoman, and she was called a superstar in 1919. Mary Pickford was one of the first superstars. She was, the world-famous silent movie actress. One of the first times it was in print was talking about Babe Ruth in 1920. But before that, in the 1910s and the 1920s, there was a guy named Frank Patrick who owned the Vancouver Millionaires, an ice hockey team, obviously, and he called his team superstars, particularly one player, and I love this name, Cyclone Taylor.
Oh, of course it's Cyclone. Oh, Psycho.
Right. Easy, Francis.
Yeah.
And then before that, in the late 18th century, there was a star of the first magnitude cricket player named John Small, who they also deemed a superstar.
John Small. I'm assuming he was a bowler.
Yep. So, and then and the person.
I would have thought the very first superstar in my mind was P.T. Barnum.
He created him. He wasn't a superstar. He was a showman who, and none of that, other than Jumbo the Elephant, maybe.
But everybody knew P.T. Barnum's name.
Correct. But the person who really coined the phrase and made it into the lexicon, out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, #1 in our hearts and dead now. And if he was alive today, what would he be doing? Scratching at the lid of his coffin. Andy Warhol.
Oh, okay.
He's the one who coined the term superstar.
So it came along later then.
Yeah, as far as common lexicon. Yeah. It was bandied about for all these people I mentioned earlier.
Babe Ruth was just so huge.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so huge. I mean, so he was truly a superstar.
Right.
Like, I mean, he was when they said something about him making more than the president, you know what his quote was? I had a better year than him.
Exactly. How accurate could that be? Look, we go back and forth on some of these things, and we don't differ often, but every now and again we differ. How are we going to settle any of these things?
Yeah, we're going to bury the hatchet.
Okay.
All right.
Preferably not here.
So, and that's where I thought it came from. I thought it was a war term. I was like, okay, us kind of come up with some war terms, and that's where I came from. Yankees, the Yankees versus the Redcoats, and then I went to bury the hatchet, and I thought it came from actually burying the
6
hatchet.
inches deep. Yeah, no.
I'm going to settle this. I'm going to bury the hatchet. But the Native Americans, when we first got to the U.S., they had a tradition. If they had a conflict between tribes and they were coming together to talk about it, they took all the weapons, put them in a hole, and covered them up, so no one had weapons.
Right.
And they literally buried the hatchet to have the conversation. So they buried. And later it became guns, and it it was a tradition even with the Pilgrims and the Indians, Native Americans at that time. They put blankets over them and buried their guns in there. And I didn't realize that they truly buried it and buried the hatchet. So it goes back to the Pilgrims, and Thanksgiving's coming up. So it works in this one too, even though we're doing Veterans Day right now.
Well, that's it.
But the bury the hatchet actually came from the Native Americans, their tradition. It was their tradition, not the colonist tradition.
Right.
So
I'm sure the colonists did it under duress. I don't think they were voluntarily giving up their weapons. It's America, man. We don't give up our guns, apparently.
Well, at that time, they needed the Native Americans more. Native Americans outnumbered them. The Native Americans knew how to live off the land better than them.
Right.
And so it behooved the colonists to bury the hatchet with them.
Right. And all they would do is just sneeze on the Native Americans, and they got their revenge.
All right. So 1775, I took us there with bury the hatchet. So
the Army starts.
The Army. That's the very first military.
That's it.
That we had in
U.S.
the
Army.
U.S.
Yes, sir.
So,
did I mention there's 157,000 soldiers stationed in California?
But not in 1775.
No, sir. No.
And Congress was against us having a colonial militia at that time. So how did the Army come to be in 1775?
Well, under the force of arms, we had a band together to fight off those evil people from the macaroni bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
those little puffed Englishmen.
That's what the Redcoats look like. So
well, they were fancy. Yeah. They were very fancy.
Yeah. So, so in 1775 is when the Army was created. So what can you tell me about the creation of the U.S. Army?
Well, they did a couple of things simultaneously, basically. The Army started in 1775. The Navy started in 1794. It was right on top of that. But a couple of other things were right around there. The Marine Corps started in 1775 as well, called the Continental Marines. And they were much later, brokered into becoming under the auspices of the Department of the Navy and the Navy. But it banded together. It became apparent through the Continental Congress that you needed to get some uniformity. Unfortunately, they didn't have uniforms, but they needed some uniformity because they also didn't have the money to pay for any of this nonsense because Congress was not giving out, money.
Yeah, I don't think Congress had a whole lot of money.
Well, that was part of it too. So that all came together, and they picked some plantation owner from Virginia who chopped down a cherry tree and made him the first general of the Army.
Okay, you know what? I have him listed on my generals.
And where would he be listed?
Well, they did. I received a list of all generals. Okay. As I was doing my research in the United States, and old Georgie Porgy,
Puddin' in pie.
George Washington was ranked number 1.
Yeah, and was he that good a general? I mean, he was a statesman, he was a politician, he was a survivor. He put it all together. I mean, and he was smart enough to see that there was no reason for imperialism in the United States. He didn't want to be an emperor. He didn't want to be a king. He wanted to, when he was elected president after he became, general of the army and beat the British, with the help of a lot of other people under there. And I'm surprised that on your list there aren't any other colonial era generals. I find that interesting.
Yeah.
Because there was a couple of guys that were really pretty. I mean, maybe this was literally general rank only, because a lot of those guys weren't necessarily generals.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna give the first 11.
Go ahead.
Okay, and
it's interesting.
Then I want you to give me back what you feel is the top 3.
Okay.
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 And so here's the list. It's George Washington 1, Andrew Jackson 2, Ulysses S. Grant 3, William Sherman 4, Sheridan Phillip 5, Robert E. Lee 6, Pershing 7, Douglas MacArthur 8, George Marshall 9, Eisenhower 10, Patton is 11. In case you want to know who 12 was, it was Omar Bradley. And in case you're wondering where Schwarzkopf was, he was ranked 14th.
Interesting.
So, okay.
Storm and Norman.
So give me your top 3, and it doesn't have to be even ones on this list. If you have other ones on this list, and we're talking U.S. because we're talking veterans. We're honoring U.S. veterans this weekend, and not just generals in general.
And it's interesting because it's hard to put them in, because they fought in different periods of history, in different types of war, in different types of warfare in particular. I mean, Eisenhower was the supreme Allied commander. So, he had a lot of things to tie together, and he, certainly supervised Operation Overlord D-Day, and that was, a great invasion that then just slogged through the rest of the next couple of years to get the Germans defeated. I watched Band of Brothers about 3 weeks ago, and my goodness, was that gut-wrenching, but fabulously done. Fabulously done.
I can tell you this. To me, on a television show, because that was a television show.
Yeah.
The scene where they liberate the concentration
camp. Oh, my goodness.
Could be the most emotional scene I've ever seen on a television show.
I understand.
I mean, it's just one of those things, because they did such an amazing, realistic job of how they handled that scene, I'm, it almost turns your stomach.
Oh yeah.
And
it's just how can you be that inhumane to other people? That's and unfortunately, it sadly brokers into what's going on now, because those were primarily Jewish people in a concentration camp. I mean, there were gypsies, there were homosexuals, there were intellectuals, there were anybody that was not a Nazi. But the part of that scene that I remember the most,
it wasn't just Jew. I mean, there were Muslims,
well, predominantly
Muslims in there also, and if you weren't a
gypsies, Romanians, absolutely. If you were not blonde and blue-eyed, you were just looked at cross-eyed. But that scene that you're talking about, what I got out of that is when they got there, when one of the Easy Company sergeants just turned around and started running. Find me an officer. I got to find an officer. You don't believe? Where's an officer? I need to. You're not gonna. I need an officer, because he had to explain this or bring somebody to see what they saw. And they're standing on the other side of the barbed wire. They were afraid to open the door to the camp. They needed some direction.
Well, it was.
But it was just like
you could look in, and there was scurvy. There was lice. It was
everything.
I mean, and it was just the conditions of it.
Oh, it was horrific.
Yeah, and one of my, and I should have put this as one of the underrated movies, but it won so many awards, is A Beautiful Life.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
And that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah,
and I didn't mention it last week.
Talk about gut wrenching.
But they won a tank, so he won a tank.
And that was. Wasn't he the guy who won the Academy Award, who was climbing over the seats to get to?
Yes, 100%.
So he elevated that.
He's such a beautiful.
Oh goodness.
Wonderful. I mean, he lived the role of A Beautiful Life. So, but I mean, like you said, Band of Brothers. So okay, we're back to 1, 2, and 3. I know it's a hard.
It's all right. I'm not going George Washington. There were other people in the Continental Army in the American Revolution who were more involved You had, and they may not have been generals, but you had, the Swamp Fox. You had the Green Mountain Boys. Who was that? Ethan Allen.
Yeah.
There were guys that fought in different parts of the country, in different parts of the war, that were.
Ethan Allen was an amazing leader, and he was also one of the financial backers of the Continental Army.
I made great furniture.
Yeah.
after the fact.
Yeah.
He did. Look at how he expanded his portfolio.
Yeah. Had a great story about Austin.
Yeah. I asked you earlier about Billy Mitchell. You know what? Billy Mitchell was the man that basically, through force of will and, crashing and getting back up again, created the Air Force. And he wasn't listed on your list, and I find that interesting.
Yeah.
Blackjack Pershing, he got us kind of Texas and helped solidify the southern border, which is timely now more than it's ever been, unfortunately. I take offense to Robert E. Lee in that list only in the fact that the man was a brilliant general, a brilliant in West Point, as you said. But you know what? Do you want to say Rommel was a brilliant general until he killed himself? I guess he was.
But you still have to, and this is true. In
a vacuum,
the Confederates were given full veteran status within the United States, and we have to honor that.
Okay.
So that's
when did that happen? Educate me, please.
That happened in the 50s.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that
all right.
happened in the 50s.
Okay.
So they still were considered veteran status, and it was later on that it actually happened. So that he has to stay on the list.
Okay, that's fine then. But then let me ask you.
He's not my top three. I don't want you to.
No, I know, but this is leading me to a devil's advocate conversation.
Because I can tell you this. If Stonewall Jackson doesn't get killed by his own men, the North might have had a little tougher go at it.
I'm sure.
Because Stonewall Jackson was a brilliant strategic general.
Tactician.
And he got early in the war, he got killed by his own guy by friendly fire.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So if in the 50s.
And Stonewall Jackson did make the top 20. By the way,
well, the only Confederate general on there, I believe, was Lee.
Lee on the top 10, yeah.
Were there other Confederate generals further down?
Yeah, Stonewall made the 20. He was the only other one. He was the only other one that made it.
But if they got veterans acknowledgement in the 50s, being Confederate soldiers and I'd say insurrectionists, just because I'm going to fan some flames. Because why shouldn't I?
Yeah, that's what you do.
It's fun. What the hell?
That's what you do.
But now, if that's the case, and they were declared war veterans, what all the tumult about removing their statues?
That was part of the thing. That was part of the pushback on the argument. But it was
and erasing history. I'm not a big fan of erasing history at all.
No.
You need look, because you bring Santayana into the conversation. Those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it. And you know what? If you take these monuments down, and look, I'm a Northerner. Sorry, I'm a Yankee.
Yeah, you are a Yankee.
Yeah.
Even though you're not Dutch at all.
No, not in the least. But I know where Stonewall is. Never been there, but can appreciate.
Yep.
And I'm a chef, so I'm a big fan of macaroni. We call it pasta nowadays because I'm Italian. But be that as it may. Hi, straight, married, love my wife. Be that as it may.
Yeah.
I just have some of my, hey, some of my best friends were gay.
Yeah.
One of the best jobs I ever had was working in a gay bar and restaurant on West 14th Street. Oh my goodness.
And I'll tell you, I've I grew up in a very different small town. Like you and I have different upbringings and stuff like that. And it never, even when we were going through some really, really wild stuff, and I think this was the week, just a couple of days back, is when Magic Johnson came out.
Right. Yeah. 1991,
which changed that dynamic.
Yeah.
Even going through the 80s and what gay men had to go through in the 1980s is just deplorable. Just deplorable. And you and I lived through that.
I lived in the center of it.
Yeah, and you were in New York City at that time.
I lived in Greenwich Village in the West Village on Charles Street, across the street from a club called The Monster, which is one of the biggest gay clubs in the city, with a second one on Fire Island.
So horrible how we treated people that are different. And I'm so happy where we are. And people go, "Oh, we haven't changed. We haven't changed. We haven't changed." Okay, and it's coming from.
It's glacial, but we're getting there.
From a 20-year-old college student.
Yeah, well.
I was like, okay, you don't know.
Right.
And it insults them when I say you don't know, but they don't know how awful certain things were. How awful it was to be a black person in the South in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s.
I can't do anything other than imagine and empathize.
Yeah. And even where you came from in New York and where I was at in Florida is completely different of how black culture was treated.
Sure.
I remember, and I'm 56, all right? And I remember in the courthouse in Volusia County having white and black water fountains. White and black bathrooms.
Yeah.
All right. The white, and they weren't side by side. Like you see pictures of white, and it wasn't like that. The white water fountains were in the more convenient spots. The black water fountains and the black bathrooms were in the basement. And I remember going to a water fountain before I could read, and I was told I couldn't drink out of it.
Yeah. And that's not to say that when I grew up...
That's in my lifetime.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying, not to say when I grew up that there wasn't discrimination or prejudice, even in New York on Long Island where I grew up. But I was fortunate to go to a neighborhood school, which was one of the most homogeneous neighborhoods that had... black, white, Puerto Rican, wealthy, less wealthy, nouveau riche, Italian, Jewish.
We didn't have that in the South.
Yeah, no, and we did.
We didn't. We just didn't have that in the South, and fortunately we do now. And people don't get how bad it actually was. I mean,
I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
All right. So I'm gonna give you my three, and then we're gonna do some sponsors, and then we're gonna go. I'm gonna go with my three as being Ulysses S. Grant. I believe he saved our country twice.
Yep.
He saved our country as
while drinking
a leader. He kind of settled it down
while smoking cigars. Can we do that one?
Smoking the cigars, but he settled it down when he came to the East. So, and he had to straighten up his life and his wife, and one of the most honorable things I can think of when I read about Ulysses S. Grant, and it was the right thing to do. The gentleman was such an honorable man. He was flat broke.
Yeah.
He was flat broke when he got married. His wife's family owned several slaves. They were given a slave. They were expensive at the time, very expensive. And he could have sold this gentleman for a profit because he literally was flat broke. And he went down the day they got married and the day this person was given. Not 2 days later, the day they were married, he went down and signed this gentleman over to freedom. Completely doing the right thing. And then he ended up going back into the military after that, and that's when his greatness as a general came to be. But at this time, he had already settled on his drinking.
Yeah.
He was drinking because he was lonely more than anything else out west, and it filled a hole in his life. But Ulysses S. Grant, if you read about this man, his name is Hiram.
Right, exactly.
All right, Ulysses was his middle name. Simpson was his mom's maiden name. So his real name is Hiram Ulysses Grant. Screwed up at West Point.
At West Point, exactly.
Screwed up at West Point. And to me, he's my number one. Okay. My number two is Eisenhower.
Dwight.
Okay? Because Eisenhower had the whole weight of the world on him.
Supreme Commander is not an easy thing to do.
George Washington had the weight of the colonies.
Yeah, it's a different world. Absolutely.
Okay, the world was completely different at this time.
Yep.
All right. And Eisenhower had, if he doesn't succeed in his strategies.
We're speaking German.
Or Japanese.
Oh, yeah. Man in the High Castle.
Yeah. So we're speaking one of those two, or a combination of both. But Eisenhower, and then he went on to be a very successful president in a lot of ways too.
We can thank him for the interstate system.
Exactly. We wouldn't have I-75,
which he did from a point of military preparedness. By the way, that was to move military apparatus from one coast to the other in the advent, and to be able to land airplanes.
And the thing is because of the struggles he had in World War II of moving and getting supplies, is part of the reason why he's like, if it happens here, it's not going to happen on my watch.
Right.
And that's the reason he did that. But Eisenhower's my number 2.
Okay.
All right. My number 3 is just because he's a badass. All right. And that's Andrew Jackson.
Hey, look, I'm a big fan of the Battle of New Orleans.
All right. Andrew Jackson doesn't have as much military background and stuff like that, but he was
brutal.
He's got incredible stories of just how tough this man was. Old Hickory.
Yes.
Earned his name more than any other president. And I mean, he got shot by a guy twice and then beat the guy to nearly death with his cane. So, I mean, he won like...
How many duels? Yeah.
Yeah, he won like over 100 duels because his wife was a little bit on the...
Floozy side?
The chippy side. She was very...
Was that his first wife? Didn't he end up marrying... confusingly enough, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he marry a Native American woman at some point?
No.
Who was his first wife? Because he had a couple of wives, did he not?
I don't believe so. The wife that got him in trouble was not a Native American woman.
Okay.
So she was not from the best of backgrounds.
Okay.
But she was not a Native American woman. So...
I thought he kept defending. He had duels were defending her honor.
No, she would talk a lot. Like she was a Karen.
God.
Before there were Karens, she was a Karen, and she would talk a lot. And then he had a pretty short temper, and he liked to fight. So he was a guy who liked to fight. All right. So who's your number 1? You
Rachel.
never gave me your number 1. What was that about his wife, Rachel?
Yeah, Rachel.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Rachel.
Hey,
they had a deeply loving marriage, despite the controversy it ignited in Jackson's political rivals. Okay.
Yeah. Blake, can you hear Lenny as far back as he's leaned?
Yes, I can. But
kid, I blew his ears out when.
but definitely sounded. But moving back, he definitely sounded like when like he was when he lost his voice though.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no worries. Lenny, are you rooting for that? That's all I'm asking.
Lenny got comfortable, and it sounded like he went down the tunnel. All right. So
my number 1. All right. If I had to do number 1.
Wow, we're almost out of time. We got to talk about our sponsors again.
All right. Well, get. All right. You do the sponsors, and that gives me time to tap in for my number 1.
First one, we got to talk about Best Deli in town. They have prepared meats. It's amazing. Kaiser's.
Baby.
Kaiser's Deli, just amazing. They do an amazing job. Coquina Coast Realty, give me a call. Find me on Facebook. We're there. St. Augustine Pirate Museum, over 800 artifacts. Best museum in town. Not Leitner. Pirate Museum is
I like
amazing.
the Leitner.
Abare Kresge. Yeah, but, it doesn't change.
That's right.
Abare Kresge and Associates, best accountants in town, CPAs. Help yourself. You're supposed to be thinking about don't get distracted by money.
I'm working through wars.
All right. Roosevelt Room. I'm telling you right now, amazing breakfast, amazing lunch. You got to try the candied bacon. It's so good. And they have event space there. Give Brianna a call over there. They'll take care of you. A Shelter family, always doing good things for St. Augustine. All right, Meehan's, my man Reggie is so into the community. He takes care of us. He takes care of everybody. They have 3 bars in one. Amazing food, amazing drinks, and amazing ambiance. All right, St. Augustine Distillery and Citygate Spirits. Phil, congratulations on your new post with Visit Florida. But these guys have the best tours, tasting tours in the country.
What he did in St. Augustine in such a short period of time is fascinating.
No, and he's a good man. He's a good, very close friend, and I appreciate Philip in my life.
Good.
So, and we worked together going all the way back to Project Swing when it first started. Okay. So,
Sherman and his March to the Sea.
Sherman, he's your number one.
He's just a brutal bastard, but he was efficient. I'll give him that. I'll give him points for efficiency.
I don't think Scarlett would agree with you.
No, but Rhett might, because he was a little bit of a cad.
Yeah, Rhett was he ran guns.
He was a run runner, right? He was a gun runner, exactly. Yeah. You know what? From a purely militaristic point of view, and a professional soldier who had a mandate to accomplish an end in a mission, he started west and moved east. And basically, this was basically he was Romanesque in it, and I mean, the Romans would salt the earth as they passed to prevent anything from growing.
Yeah.
Well, Sherman basically did the same thing.
Yeah, he scalded it.
He eradicated food supplies. He prevented the regeneration of produce. Yeah. And he basically, crushed the South. Well, let alone the emotional destruction of Atlanta.
Well, and the other thing, and people say Sherman did all these things and he was so evil, but he sent people ahead to tell him he was coming and what he was going to do.
Right.
It wasn't like the citizens didn't know.
Right.
He let them know, I'm coming.
Right.
You have to leave. He was probably, and what was it? Hurricane Floyd was supposed to be the largest evacuation of all time.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Per capita, Sherman's March was the largest evacuation of all time.
Right, and that was just pushing them. Yeah. It's almost like I can almost envision these poor people dropping into the sea like lemmings because they ran out of room, and the people in the back are pushing the people in the front.
Yeah.
So, but just from a purely military standpoint of success of mission, I mean that was the backbreaker for a lot of the Civil War. Mm-hmm. So, good, bad, or indifferent.
You're going to give it to Sherman.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I do like the fact that, Andrew Jackson did win the Battle of New Orleans well after the War of 1812 was over. But that was just, that's just goofy.
Yeah. No, I just didn't know.
Right.
All right. Well, so who's your number two?
MacArthur came back. He was not a nice guy, but, he said he just took his sweet-ass time getting back to the Philippines.
Yeah.
So, I don't know about that. George S. Patton. My father served with Patton.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. My father served with Patton. Had some interesting stories to tell me about it. And, George S. was just, old blood and guts, was taking no prisoners, literally.
So he was a world-class polo player.
Okay.
So his family...
He was a world-class asshole, but go ahead.
He might have been that, too. But he was considered one of the best polo players in the world.
Okay.
He was an amazing horseman.
Did he start in the cavalry?
I'm not 100% sure about that, but I wouldn't be surprised. More than likely that's where he started. I wouldn't be surprised,
yeah.
And so he came from a very wealthy upbringing.
Okay.
Very, very well educated, brilliant man, but he was a guy that was... I played with some really amazing athletes in my life. Mm-hmm. And there's certain people that are so good it's almost hurts them in life. All right? There's players, and I can call this guy out, and hopefully he doesn't hear this because he would squash me like a bug. I played with Jose Canseco.
Okay.
So cocky. Such an arrogant, you can't get me out. But that's what made him great.
Right.
All right. Patton reminds me of that guy being on your team. You hated him on any other team, unless he was on your team.
Right. Well,
and even then, at his death, it was so questionable.
Well, yeah.
About what happened.
Yeah. But arrogant people just have a confidence that moves them forward.
And I've been accused of that.
You're sitting next to somebody. Hi there.
I've been accused of that. I mean, I carry myself with a lot of swagger, and I'm very confident in what I know and what I don't know.
So am I. Jackson 5 notwithstanding.
Jackson 5 notwithstanding. Right. But I mean, Patton Patton, he's the one who beat the Desert Fox, isn't he?
Was he there? It might have been because my father was in North Africa. He beat Rommel. It's possible because it was the tank corps. It was tank on tank back then. It wasn't Mountbatten.
It might have been.
I thought it was Mountbatten.
Might have been.
Yeah.
But I mean, Patton to me is one of those characters, and George C. Scott made him way bigger in a lot of ways, and it's going to make Patton's world live forever because of that movie.
Well, it was a slap that was heard around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but Patton is that guy, and he got himself in trouble because he got too big for his britches.
Yeah.
Same as MacArthur. He forgot Truman was the president.
Right.
So he's right there with him. So those two guys. But you need those guys to be in charge. What's it called now? Toxic masculinity.
Okay, yeah.
But you know what? We need some toxic masculinity to protect us.
Well, you got to have somebody who has balls. That's what it comes down to.
What's in the movie A Few Good Men?
Yeah.
You need me on that wall.
Right. You can't handle the truth. Yeah,
you
exactly.
want me on that wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just don't want to know anything about it.
Yeah. And and there's some truth to that.
Yeah. It's a whole different variation of don't ask, don't tell. It has nothing to do with sexuality. It has
zero to do with that.
You don't want to know what I have to do to protect you.
Yeah, I can tell you right now. I played baseball with a guy, and he was a gay gentleman that only a handful of us on the team knew he was gay, and he was the baddest son of a bitch on the field and off the field. But
probably for self-defense.
He unfortunately in that time you had to stay in the closet. If you were going to be a baseball player, and but only a handful, like I said, only a handful of us knew. And
I'm sorry, this was Jose Canseco?
No.
I'm just laughing because I keep seeing the ball bounce off his head over the wall.
Yeah,
that's one of the greatest equalizers.
Jose is a twin, and has a brother named Ozzy.
Yeah,
and Jose's steroids didn't make him as angry as Ozzy's did.
Ooh.
Ozzy was very dangerous on steroids. I think he shot up a car in Miami. He would want to fight in like a second. I mean, I seriously saw Ozzy at a softball tournament want to beat up an 18-year-old kid that weighed like 120 pounds. I'm not much bigger than that, but I mean, it was like, I'm not fighting him. I mean, here's 6'4", 250. I'm not fighting him, but so there's a limit to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know what? This is the end of our show. And
I got a quick question for you.
Yes.
And this is one of the greatest questions of all time. Who's buried in Grant's tomb?
Ooh, do we really know?
It's George Washington's White Horse White.
Mm-hmm. All these things are good questions.
Yeah.
But I want to say thank you to our amazing veterans. We appreciate you guys.
Please.
Those of
you that are alive, thank you. Those of you who aren't, more importantly, thank you.
And I was talking to some gentlemen Tuesday night. I had people stand up at Gypsy and tell them thank you. I bought drinks for the veterans there. But the guys I really want to thank and didn't get their due when they came back are the guys from Vietnam. And we pretty much have lost all of our greatest generation from World War II, which is where my grandfather was.
My father.
But I can tell you, the guys from Vietnam, they couldn't wear their uniforms home on the bus. They couldn't. I mean, the fact that they had short hair, they would get spit on. You're the guys I want to say thank you, and I'm sorry that our country was so messed up.
Right.
In a conflict we probably shouldn't have been in.
And they didn't choose. They did not choose to go there.
They got drafted. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't them. It was our political system at the time.
Yep.
And I want to make sure they understand how much we appreciate you.
Absolutely.
So, all right. I tell you what, that's the end of our show. Thank you to our amazing sponsors. Lenny, great job. Appreciate it.
Pleasure
I don't
as
know
always.
if we got to anything that was on your list. We ended up talking so much.
Very important fact to note. Did I mention that there's 157,000 members of the Army that are in California?
I did not know that.
All right. Well, keep that under your hat. Don't let it get around because people are going to get very confused about that.
Yeah.
All right.
How many are in California?
157,000.
Wow.
And by the way, the Space Force, they don't have any TIE fighters. They don't have any X-Wing fighters. I don't know. That's a crock. Yeah, well, they better.
And do you know for sure?
According to my research, I don't know.
Not trusting it.
No, Noah has more planes and ships than the Space Force. That's all I'm saying.
Not trusting it.
All right.
Hey, Blake, thank you for in the studio. Lenny, appreciate you. This is, I almost said Uncommon Ground. This is Bollox Talks and Tangents, and we'll be back next week.